The Pacific Ocean stretched endless and serene, its breath slow, its waters like brushed silk. No landmarks, no cities, only sky and salt and silence. And beneath that stillness, two empires prepared to collide. Long ago, sea battles were thunderous symphonies of iron and cannon. But in June 1942, the old music would end. The sea no longer belonged to ships, it belonged to shadows in the clouds, to wings, to whispers, to codes, to fate written not in steel, but in silence. At a lonely speck called Midway, the tide of the world would change. In the months after Pearl Harbor, Japan moved like fire through the Pacific. Guam, the Philippines, Singapore, each fell like dry leaves in a storm. The Imperial Navy ruled the waves, led by four proud queens of war, the carriers Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu. At the helm stood Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, brilliant, brooding, and burdened. He had struck Pearl Harbor with precision, but the American carriers had escaped, a single flaw that kept him restless beneath the stars. When American bombers brushed Tokyo with the daring Doolittle raid, it wounded pride, not land. Yamamoto vowed it would not happen again. Midway was bait, a coral-specked atoll, small as a whisper on the map. But in Yamamoto's hands, it became a stage. Strike Midway, draw the Americans out, and crush their final carriers. His plan was vast. More than 200 ships stretched like beads across the ocean, a feint to the Aleutians, a spearhead to Midway. And behind, his battleships waited, silent and supreme. But in spreading his net so wide, Yamamoto left its center hollow. In a basement beneath Pearl Harbor, far from the wind and waves, a different war was fought. Commander Joseph Rochefort, wrapped in slippers and solitude, led a team who listened to whispers, radio fragments, cryptic codes, patterns in the noise. They heard AF again and again. Rochefort believed AF meant Midway. To prove it, they sent a silent message from Midway. The water system had failed. Soon after, the Japanese confirmed, AF is short on water. The ghosts had spoken. Admiral Chester Nimitz stood calm in shadow, reading whispers like scripture. Washington doubted. The risks were immense. But Nimitz believed Rochefort. He placed his three carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, Yorktown, not where logic said, but where intuition whispered, a place called Point Luck, beyond the horizon of Midway. There they waited. Yorktown limped home from Coral Sea, her decks broken. She needed 3 months. Nimitz gave her 3 days. Under welding sparks and sleepless hands, the ship rose, damaged but defiant. She sailed leaking oil, not hope. 3 carriers, America's last, against 4 of Japan's finest. June 4th. Midway woke beneath soft light and humming birds. Then came the drones. The skies filled with 108 Japanese aircraft. Bombs fell. Barracks crumbled. But the runway lived. Fighters had taken to the sky. Midway was wounded, but it breathed. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo was a cautious man caught in an impossible hour. His planes returned. Midway still stood. He ordered a second strike. Bombs were changed for torpedoes, then torpedoes for bombs again. Below deck, steel thundered. Munitions rolled exposed. The carriers became floating powder kegs. From the American fleet came waves of courage wrapped in cloth and propellers. Torpedo Squadron 8 flew low, slow, and alone. 15 planes. No escort, all shot down. One man survived, floating in silence. Others followed. Squadron 6, Squadron 3. Of 41 planes, only 6 returned. No hits, no glory, but above, the skies were now empty. High above, the dauntless dive bombers circled, low on fuel, hearts pounding. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey saw a lone Japanese destroyer. He followed its wake and found the heart of the Japanese fleet. At 10:22 a.m., the sun fell from the sky. Dive bombers screamed down like angels of fire. Bombs struck. Kaga burned. Soryu cracked. Akagi erupted as a single bomb fell into its core. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers lay broken. The sea hissed with flame. Only Hiryu remained. Her captain, Rear Admiral Taman Yamaguchi, launched a counterstrike. They found Yorktown. 3 bombs, then torpedoes. The mighty carrier shuddered, fought, and slowly slipped beneath the waves. But America struck back. 4 bombs found Hiryu. Yamaguchi refused rescue. He stayed as his ship died. By June 5th, the battle was done. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, the core of the Japanese carrier fleet, were gone. Japan lost 250 planes and their finest pilots. The sea, once ruled by the rising sun, had turned. Japan would never advance again. From Midway onward, the Pacific tide rolled westward. Guadalcanal came next. Then the Long Island marched to Okinawa. The war had many battles left, but the outcome had changed. At Midway, the initiative changed hands. Victory wore many faces: a codebreaker in slippers, an admiral who trusted whispers, pilots who died knowing they paved the sky for others, and a battered ship held together by hands and hope. Midway was not just a battle. It was the end of one world and the beginning of another. Battleships would no longer matter. The carrier was queen. The sky was the battlefield. And silence, if listened to, could be more powerful than steel. Even in war, life went on. On Midway, soldiers cooked rice and patched uniforms. Birds still nested. Letters were read by flashlight. Laughter echoed in the night. Beyond the guns, there were gardens, songs, and sunrises. War was only one layer of life. Today, you can walk the silent runway on Midway. Visit Pearl Harbor's Pacific Aviation Museum. Hold the past in your hands through books like Shattered Sword or Miracle at Midway. See the skies roar in the 2019 film Midway, or glimpse old echoes in the 1976 classic. History is not distant. It waits in museums, in paper, in film, in stories. Midway teaches us not just how wars are won, but how they are changed. It shows the power of preparation, of intelligence, of quiet belief, and above all, of those willing to walk into fire so others might live. If this story moved you, if the silence and thunder of Midway spoke to something within you, subscribe to our channel. Each week, we bring you stories of transformation, of civilizations, of courage, of the quiet power of resilience. Leave a comment below. What other moments do you think changed the course of history? We read everyone. This is Weaver's Nest. Thank you for watching.